The kingdom of Iziora was known for its golden harvest, its mighty warriors, and its queen, whose beauty was spoken of far beyond its borders. At the center of these whispers stood Queen Margret. Only 25 years old, caramel skin glowing like polished bronze under the moonlight, long black braids adorned with golden beads, flowing ankara gown stitched with emerald and gold threads, sandals with golden straps, a slender yet regal frame. She was the pride of her people. But beauty cannot silence the whispers of the land. Rivers had stopped flowing at dawn, goats bleated into the night with no herders nearby, and villagers dreamed of faceless shadows whispering her name. The people turned to her for comfort, but her silence only deepened their fear. For within her womb grew a secret, one even she dared not speak. And when it came forth, it would not only change her fate, it would shake the throne and alter the destiny of all who lived in Iziora. The palace shook with urgency, sandals slapping against marble floors, priests chanting, incense thick in the air. The queen's labor had begun. Margret lay upon her bed of ivory and silk, braids clinging to her damp skin, her caramel face twisted in pain. "Something is wrong," she whispered. Hours passed, long, heavy, agonizing hours. At last, the newborn arrived. The midwife lifted the child, then froze. Her hands trembled, her lips parted. For in her arms was no human child. It was a goat. Gasps echoed like thunder in the chamber. Its small body shook, its golden eyes gleamed, old, ancient, knowing. The queen cried out, a sound of sorrow and disbelief. Outside, torches flickered violently, even the night seemed to recoil. And so, the omen had entered the world, not as man, but as beast. By dawn, the rumor spread, faster than fire on dry grass. "The queen is cursed," some cried. "No, she has been chosen," others whispered. The kingdom was split in fear and awe. Inside the palace, Queen Margret sat upon her golden throne, her gown flowing like a river of silk, braids falling like a curtain around her tear-stained face. In her arms, she held a goat, its bleating strangely human, almost like a child's cry. The chief priest entered, staff striking against stone, eyes dark as midnight. He gazed at the goat, then spoke slowly, "This is no ordinary beast, it is the vessel of prophecy." Gasps rippled through the hall. Elders shouted for the creature to be thrown into the river, others knelt in reverence. Margret clutched the goat tighter, torn between a mother's love and a kingdom's fear. Night fell heavy upon the palace, torches sputtered against the walls, shadows stretched long and restless. Queen Margret paced, sandals striking marble, braids brushing against her ankara gown. She paused at the crib. Inside lay the goat, breathing softly, too calm, too still. She whispered, "Why me? What sin have I committed to bear this fate?" Then, it stirred. Its golden eyes flickered open, glowing faintly in the half-light. Margret gasped. And the impossible happened. The creature whispered, "Mother." Her scream shattered the silence. Guards rushed in, spears raised. Yet when they looked inside, they saw nothing strange. Only a goat, asleep, breathing gently. The guards exchanged frightened glances, whispering prayers. But Queen Margret knew. The prophecy was alive. And it had just spoken her name. At dawn, the great hall of Iziora filled with voices, loud, angry, fearful. Elders, priests, warriors. All demanded judgment. Queen Margret entered, her ankara gown trailing like flowing water, braids glittering in sunlight, her figure slender but unshaken. Behind her, servants carried the goat wrapped in cloth, golden eyes watching everything. "This is a curse," an elder thundered. "Sacrifice it before ruin comes," cried another. "No," others said. "It is a sign, a bridge between realms." The queen lifted her hand. Silence fell. "This is my child," she declared, her voice steady. though her heart quaked. Flesh of my flesh, spirit of my spirit. I will not abandon it. Gasps swept through the chamber. Some bowed, others spat. The chief priest stepped forward, voice grave, so it begins. The prophecy of blood and shadow awakens. The land will be tested. And your choice, Queen, will decide its fate. A chill spread through the hall, one no sunlight could chase away. The days that followed were heavy with unease, drums in the village beat slower than usual, the air thick with whispers, even the market women lowered their voices as they traded yams and kola nuts. In the palace, Queen Margret walked the courtyard with the goat in her arms. Her caramel skin glowed in the sun, her gold-embedded braids swayed softly, yet her steps were restless. For everywhere she went, eyes followed. Some filled with reverence, others with fear. One evening, the elders gathered beneath the great iroko tree. The oldest among them, his beard white as palm wine foam, spoke with gravity. When a child is born strange, the gods are speaking. The goat child is not a curse, it is a test. But not all agreed. A warrior spat into the earth. A test. No. This is a plague wrapped in fur. If the queen refuses to cast it away, then the land will pay the price. That night, Queen Margret dreamed. She saw rivers of blood flooding the streets of Iziora, warriors falling, and the goat standing upon the ruins, its eyes burning like the sun. She woke with a cry, clutching her chest. The prophecy was unfolding, faster than anyone could bear. Word of the queen's strange birth traveled beyond the kingdom. Messengers whispered it across borders, traders carried it along the Niger River, and soon, enemies who coveted Iziora's wealth heard of it too. In a faraway land, a rival king laughed cruelly. A queen who births a goat. Iziora is weak. Their throne is broken. Now is the time to strike. His warriors sharpened their spears, their drums echoing like thunder. Back in Iziora, Queen Margret walked barefoot through the palace gardens, her ankora gown brushing the earth, her sandals dangling from her hand. The goat followed her closely, bleating softly, as if sensing her sorrow. She turned to the chief priest. Tell me the truth. What do the gods demand of me? He closed his eyes, gripping his staff. The goat child carries a destiny greater than yours, greater than mine. Protect it, Queen Margret, for if it dies, the kingdom dies with it. Her heart quaked. How could something so small, so fragile, hold the fate of an entire nation? Yet in her bones, she felt the truth. And beyond the palace walls, enemies were already moving closer. The festival of the New Yam approached, a time of joy, drumming, and dance. Normally, the kingdom would be alive with masquerades, children laughing, fires crackling as pounded yam filled the air with aroma. But this year, joy was tempered by dread. For though tradition demanded celebration, all eyes remained fixed on the palace. Would the queen appear? Would she reveal the goat child? On the day of the festival, Queen Margret emerged, her braids gleaming in the sunlight, her ankora gown dazzling with red and gold embroidery. The crowd parted in awe as she stepped forward, and behind her walked the goat, its golden eyes gleaming like fire. The drummers faltered. The flutists lowered their pipes. Silence swallowed the square. Then suddenly, the goat lifted its head and bleated. But the sound was no ordinary bleat, it was deep, haunting, almost like the horn of war. The people gasped, falling to their knees. An old woman in the crowd whispered, "The spirits walk among us." And in that moment, far away, Iziora's enemies began their march. The prophecy was weaving two fates together, joy and ruin. Night fell after the festival, yet the queen could not sleep. She sat by her window, the goat cawed at her feet, its golden eyes glimmering in the dark. Suddenly, thunder rolled across the sky. She heard footsteps, dozens of them. The palace guards burst in, spears raised. "My queen," one shouted. Scouts have seen torches on the horizon. An army approaches. Margret's heart froze. So soon, she whispered. The goat stirred, rising to its feet. Its small body trembled, but its gaze burned with a strange fire. It walked toward the queen and pressed its head against her knee. She felt warmth spread through her, strength she did not understand. The chief priest entered, staff glowing faintly in the torchlight. The prophecy is upon us, what comes not by chance, but by destiny. The child you carry, this goat, must stand at the center of it. Margret's voice shook. How can a goat fight an army? The priest's reply was grim. You will see, when the blood of men stains the soil of Nigeria. The next morning, drums of war thundered across the plains. Enemy soldiers marched, their chants echoing like storms. Spears flashed under the sun, shields pounded the earth in rhythm. Nigeria braced itself. Queen Margret stood upon the palace balcony, slender yet unyielding. Her caramel skin glowed in the morning light, her golden beads rattled softly in her braids, her flowing ankara gown whipped in the wind. Beside her stood the goat, silent, watching. Her warriors gathered below, their sandals digging into the soil, their eyes fixed on her. She raised her hand. People of Nigeria, she called, her voice strong. The gods test us. They have placed this child in our hands, not to curse us, but to reveal who we truly are. The crowd murmured, torn between fear and faith. Then the goat stepped forward. It raised its head, and from its mouth poured a sound that shook the earth. Not a bleat, but a roar. A roar that echoed across the fields, scattering birds from the trees, sending chills down every spine. The enemy army, hearing it from afar, faltered. The prophecy had awakened, and the battle for Nigeria had begun. The horns of war blared, their sound cutting through the morning mist. The enemy's army pressed closer, shields glinting, spears raised high. Dust rose from their sandals like smoke from fire. In the palace courtyard, Queen Margret's warriors tightened their ranks. They struck their shields in rhythm, their chants echoing, for Nigeria. For the queen. But fear lingered. Many eyes drifted to the goat standing beside the queen. Its golden eyes burned like embers, its breath came in sharp bursts. Margret raised her hand, braids glittering in the sun. Today, she declared, we fight not only men, but destiny itself. Her sandals struck the ground as she descended among her warriors, slender yet commanding. The goat bleated once. The sound rippled across the earth, then the ground itself shook. Cracks split the soil, birds scattered from the Iroko trees. The warriors froze. Even the enemy halted, unsure of what force had stirred. The chief priest whispered under his breath, the prophecy stirs, the child awakens. And for the first time, the queen felt not fear, but a strange, fiery hope. Battle erupted like thunder. Spears clashed against shields, swords rang like iron bells. The air filled with dust, blood, and the cries of men. Queen Margret stood at the front line, her gown torn by the wind, braids whipping across her caramel face. She moved like a lioness, her sandals striking the soil as she urged her warriors forward. Then the enemy surged, a wave of soldiers rushing toward her. In that moment, the goat leapt forward. Its small body glowed faintly, golden light spilling from its eyes. The first soldier raised his spear, but as he drew close, the goat opened its mouth. From it came not a bleat, but a thunderous blast of sound. The soldier was thrown backward, crashing into 3 others. The battlefield stilled for a heartbeat. Both sides stared in disbelief. The goat bleated again, this time louder. The earth shook violently, splitting open a trench between the 2 armies. Warriors stumbled, crying out in fear. A voice rose above the chaos, the voice of the chief priest, the prophecy works. Protect the queen, protect the child of the gods. And with that cry, the war took on a new shape. The enemy faltered, confusion spreading like wildfire. Some soldiers dropped their weapons, muttering prayers. Others pressed forward in desperation, determined to seize the goat. Queen Margret's eyes blazed with fire. "Stand firm," she shouted. "This land is ours." Her gown fluttered like a banner, her braids shone in the sunlight. The goat moved swiftly, far swifter than its form should allow. It darted between warriors, golden eyes flashing. Wherever it passed, shields cracked, swords splintered, as if unseen hands shattered them. The enemy commander roared, "Seize the beast." But his men hesitated. How does one fight what is not of this world? Margret knelt beside the goat, her hands trembling as she touched its head. "What are you?" she whispered. For a moment, the creature's eyes softened. And in her mind, clear as spoken words, she heard a voice, "I am both curse and salvation." She gasped, stumbling back. The prophecy was not just about survival, it was about choice. Would she wield this child as a weapon? Or guide it as a son? The battlefield raged, but within her, another war had begun. The sun dipped low, painting the battlefield crimson. Bodies lay scattered, shields broken, the air heavy with smoke. Yet still, the fighting raged. The goat now stood at the heart of the chaos. Its body glowed brighter, golden light wrapping around it like armor. Warriors on both sides faltered at the sight, unsure whether to kneel or to flee. Suddenly, the enemy king appeared on horseback. His armor gleamed, his voice booming. "This is no prophecy," he spat. "This is sorcery. Strike it down." He charged, spear aimed straight for the goat. Time slowed. Queen Margret screamed, the warriors cried out. But the goat's eyes blazed, and in a burst of light, the enemy king was thrown from his horse. His spear shattered in his hands. He lay in the dust, trembling as though the gods themselves pressed him down. The crowd gasped. Some whispered, "The gods protect Isiora." Others murmured, "This is power too dangerous to keep." And Queen Margret. She stood tall, gown stained with battle, sandals caked in dust. Her heart pounded with terror, yet also with pride. Her child was no longer just a child. It was destiny incarnate. Silence slowly fell upon the battlefield. The enemy king, broken and defeated, signaled retreat. His soldiers dragged him away, their chants of war replaced by cries of despair. Isiora had won. But victory brought no peace. For as Queen Margret gazed upon the goat, her heart twisted with unease. The warriors of her kingdom knelt before her, hailing her as chosen. Yet behind their bows, whispers spread like snakes in tall grass. Is it the gods who fight for us? Or demons? If the goat child saved us today, what price will it demand tomorrow? That night, the queen sat alone in her chamber. Her braids rested against her shoulders, her gown torn and stained, her caramel skin glowing faintly in the torchlight. The goat lay beside her, its golden eyes unblinking. "Am I mother to a savior, or a destroyer?" she whispered. The goat turned its head, pressing against her hand. And again, in the voice only she could hear, it spoke, both. Tears welled in her eyes. For the war was not over. The true battle was yet to come, a battle not of swords and shields, but of destiny and choice. The days after the battle were uneasy. Though Isiora celebrated victory, the drums of joy rang hollow. At the market, women still whispered, elders shook their heads, and children stared wide-eyed when the goat passed by. In the palace, Queen Margret carried the weight of it all. Her slender frame seemed heavier, though she walked with dignity. Her braids clinked softly with each bead, her gown swept gracefully across the marble. Yet inside, her heart was restless. The chief priest came to her chamber. His staff tapped the floor, slow, deliberate. He spoke with the voice of one who knew too much. The prophecy is not yet complete. The goat child has shown its power, but power is never given without a price. Margret's breath caught. What price? He looked into her eyes. When the final moon of the season rises, you must choose. Either keep the child, and watch the kingdom fall into shadow, or give it up, and save Isiora. Her chest tightened. How could a mother choose between her blood and her people? She turned to the goat, its golden eyes gleaming. And she wondered, would destiny ask her to break her own heart? As the final moon approached, the land grew restless. Rivers swelled and overflowed, storms battered the forest, goats bleated day and night as though calling to one of their own. Queen Margret prayed daily at the shrine of her ancestors. Kneeling barefoot, her gown brushing the earth, she whispered, "Guide me. Do not let me fail my people." Yet each time, the wind carried back no answer. One night, she dreamed again. In her vision, she stood upon a battlefield of fire. On one side, her people, their eyes hollow with hunger and despair. On the other, the goat, larger than life, its eyes blazing with both fury and sorrow. It bleated once, and the land cracked apart. She woke trembling, tears soaking her braids. "What do you want from me?" she cried. The goat stood beside her, pressing against her. And then it spoke aloud, not in her mind this time, but into the air itself. "Mother, you must let me go." Her heart shattered. For in that single phrase, she knew the child was both her love and her burden. And the prophecy demanded sacrifice. The final moon rose. It hung blood-red in the sky, casting an eerie glow over Isiora. The people gathered in the great square, their sandals shuffling anxiously. Elders, priests, warriors, all waited for the queen's decision. Queen Margret stood tall upon the steps of the palace. Her Ankara gown shimmered with gold embroidery, her braids sparkled in the moonlight. Her caramel skin glowed like fire against the night. Yet her eyes were heavy with sorrow. Beside her stood the goat, calm, silent, regal. It looked not like a beast, but like a spirit clothed in fur. The chief priest raised his staff. "The time has come. Queen Margret must choose, her child, or her kingdom." A murmur swept through the crowd. Some wept, others prayed, many watched in silence. The queen placed her hand upon the goat's head. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "My people," she said slowly. "I am a mother. But I am also your queen. And today, my heart must break so that yours may live." The goat looked up at her, and for the last time, whispered, "Mother." The priest led the queen and the goat to the river, wide, deep, and sacred. Its waters reflected the blood-red moon like a mirror of fate. Villagers lined the banks, holding their breath. Drums beat slowly, the sound like a heartbeat echoing across the night. Queen Margret stood barefoot in the water, her gown heavy, her braids damp with mist. The goat stood before her, calm, unafraid. The chief priest raised his staff. "Cast it into the waters, and the land will be healed." The queen's hands trembled. Every fiber of her being screamed against it. Yet she lifted the goat, her tears falling into the river. As she lowered it into the water, golden light burst forth, blinding, searing. The goat's body dissolved into shimmering dust, rising into the night sky. Its golden eyes lingered a moment longer, staring at her with love. Then, gone. The river roared, the winds calmed, and the earth itself seemed to sigh in relief. But the queen fell to her knees, weeping. She had saved her kingdom, yet she had lost her child. The dawn that followed was unlike any other. The sun rose golden, warm, gentle. The rivers flowed freely again. The goats of the land bleated in peace. And the people of Isiora rejoiced, their voices carrying across the hills. But in the palace, Queen Margret sat in silence. Her braids fell heavily across her shoulders, her eyes hollow with grief. She had given her kingdom life, but in doing so, she had given up her own joy. The chief priest came to her, his staff tapping softly. "You have fulfilled the prophecy. Isiora will flourish for generations. You will be remembered, not as cursed, but as the queen who bore the burden of the gods." Margret lifted her gaze. Her caramel skin glowed faintly in the sunlight, her slender frame seemed fragile, yet unbroken. She whispered, "A queen may save her people, but a mother never forgets her child." The tale of Queen Margret spread across the lands. Some told it as a story of sacrifice, others as a warning of destiny's weight. But all agreed on one truth, that the God child was no curse, it was a reminder that even in sorrow, greatness is born. And so, the tale of Queen Margret comes to an end. A queen who gave everything, so her people might live. Her name lives on in whispers, in songs, and in the hearts of those who remember. If this story has touched your spirit, do not let it fade. Like this tale, share it with those who hunger for stories, and subscribe, so you may sit with us again when the next fire is lit. For there are many more folktales waiting, and each carries a truth you must hear.